She walked into the room shaking, literally shaking. It was her first business networking meeting. She didn't know a soul. Every part of her wanted to turn around and leave, but she didn't. She stepped in, and in doing so, she stepped into an entirely new version of herself. 37 years of marriage and 27 years as a homeschooling mom to 5 kids. She suddenly found herself alone. Her marriage had ended. Her identity as a full-time mom had shifted, and everything she thought defined her, gone. And if you've been laid off from a job that you gave everything to, the emotions are often the same. Shock, uncertainty, the fear of starting over in a world that feels like it moved on without you. Maybe you've asked, who am I now? What do I even want? And where do I begin? This episode is your answer to those questions. By the end of this conversation, you'll move from disorientated to grounded, from invisible to empowered, from isolated to deeply connected. You'll learn how to start small, but intentionally, so you rebuild from a place of agency, your choice. How to share your story without shame, choosing how and when to reveal your truth, and how to redefine what connection looks like on your terms with the right people. This is what season 3 is all about. Building a circle around you that helps you rise, not just as a professional, but as a person discovering her new strengths. And this is what Unsealing You is here to do, to help ambitious women and purpose-driven men break past invisible ceilings, reclaim their voice, and rise with imagination and integrity. Today's guest, Pat Fenner, is an author, podcast producer, and founder of Finishing Well Podcast Productions. She helps women move forward after divorce and helps others bring their voices to the world through podcasting. Her journey will show you that even after everything changes, you still get to rewrite your story. Let's dive in. Okay, from isolation to connections. Thank you so much, Pat, for coming on to Unsealing You. And right now we are talking about such change like divorce, career change, or even the empty nest that can leave you feeling totally cut off from your communities that you were once anchored. But what if these moments are actual invitations to rebuild your intention? So, Pat, what is the most surprising thing you learned about community after your divorce?
That it was that I had agency. I had the ability to choose who I wanted to interact with, who I wanted to learn from, who I wanted to grow with. Because prior to this, of course, because I was divorced, right? I had that 37 years of marriage. So you kind of get in a zone. Additionally, I had 5 kids at home. So then I had the mom role, right? And I had those kind of things. And honestly, I never gave it much thought. I just community, choosing my community. Prior to this, it was like, well, you have kids, so you kind of hang out with the moms, right? And you're married, so you kind of hang out with the wives or the couples. And I just it wasn't even a concept for me to choose my own community. And now all of a sudden, kids are grown and flown. Marriage is gone. I am in a new city. I'm doing my own business, which was also brand new to me. And there wasn't anybody knocking on my door saying, "Oh, please join us. I want to be part of our community." There wasn't any outside pull. So I got to choose, and it was both scary as all get out and challenging and exciting all at the same time. It was a mishmash.
So how did your view of connection change when you're in such a new situation? And I can't even imagine 37 years of marriage and that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. If I hadn't gone through it, I couldn't have imagined it either. Well, it just became, I've realized how important it was. And I realized how, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go into a pity party and pour me, but I realized how little intent I had given it coming along. Like I just kind of fell into it. And I realized that connection was important for me to grow personally, for me to grow in my business, that it was something that I needed to be intentional about. So that was a whole mindset shift to realize that you can't just fall into it this stage. I mean, honestly, at this stage, the only thing I'd fall into is the couch, right? It really didn't matter, especially with my business is at home. I'm self-employed and technology related. Literally would be able to spend entire days in my home and not see another human being. So I realized how crucial. I also know that that's not good for mental health. It wasn't good for mine. And I realized how crucial it is to be intentional about community.
Okay, so then can you share one small but powerful step? Because you now realized how important community is, that it wasn't healthy. Everything was at home. Your business was at home. You didn't need to go out. Can you share one small, powerful step that you took to rebuild your network? And how did that shift your perspective?
Oh, great. Well, it was a small step, but for me it was huge just because it was out of my comfort zone. But I realized to grow my business, and I was now living in a city, larger city. I'm in the Atlanta area. I joined a business networking group, and it's a serious one. BNI takes networking very seriously, and it
Mhm.
was forcing me to come out of my shell. It was forcing me to put my business face forward and grow that and develop that. And it also taught me that I could be different than I always had. Like I just never had thought I could be. I hadn't been in the business world. I homeschooled our kids, our 5 kids, and I was home, I think 27 years I homeschooled. So this was all brand new to me. And these people hadn't known me before. So there was no comparison. There was no sympathy. I'm so sorry about your divorce. It was just, nice to meet you. Tell me about yourself. What do you do? And that was simple, but not easy to join a
Mhm.
networking group and just start developing another side of myself I, then that part was exciting. Developing the side of myself I didn't have or I didn't know about beforehand. But the scary part was it was business. It was totally new to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. My daughter is in college and I'm hoping that she still would like to go to med school. So one of the things that we wanted her to do was to network with other
Hmm.
physicians and to learn about med school, to learn about being a physician before you actually embark on it. See if you're going to like it. A very important thing. And she set up this networking meeting. Very proud of her. I didn't set it up. She set it up herself. Told her I would drive so that she can be relaxed. And the whole way she's like, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm like, that's 100% fine. And first time I podcast, I was scared out my bridges.
Yep.
And, but I did it anyway. You're just get used to this feeling of being scared and doing it anyway. Can you tell me about your first networking meeting at the BNI, the business networking? What happened? What were you feeling? How did that go? And what did you feel afterwards?
Okay, shaking. Like I was literally shaking when I walked in. And my perception was, oh my gosh, all these people who are, business owners and professionals, and they're going to see me. The imposter syndrome was raging. And one of the things that you do at BNI is every week you give a 45-second, kind of like a little, what do they call it? Elevator pitch, what you do, what kind of clients you're looking for and things like that. And I kind of knew I was supposed to do that, but I thought, oh, it's my first week. They won't make me do that. No, yeah, they do.
You're going into the deep water and I hope you swim.
That's right. So I did. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't have any recollection of what I said. All I feel like, I have the memory of feeling like sitting down and thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to know I do not belong here, kind of thing. But surprisingly, after the meeting was over, I had people were very friendly and, oh, that's really interesting what you do. Like, let's get together, let's have lunch, let's have coffee, whatever, let's talk about it. They took me at face value. Like there was no judgment. I mean, I was horrible on myself, of course. They were very welcoming. And I just began to feel like maybe people aren't as harsh on me as I am on me.
Mm.
And there's room for growth. And of course, I've been on in 3 years now there. And I've realized that, when I got there were other people who had just started their businesses too. Like there weren't people who were in it for years. I mean, there were some people who were in business for years and years or who were employed by larger companies, but there are people all over the journey, like all across the spectrum of the experience. And it was wonderful. And so I've been able so they poured into me and now I'm pouring into other people. And it's been a very empowering thing to do. So I'm really glad I did it. My oldest daughter kind of pushed me into it. She's like, Mom, it's not healthy for you to be home all the time. You need to meet other people in business.
Good for her.
Yes.
So, in this case, sometimes our personal stories are the exact bridges that we need in order to build those relationships. And sometimes our stories can feel a little bit risky, especially when you're healing. So, how, when you talk about, you share your divorce journey through your book and also through your podcasting work, how does that change the way you connect with others?
I ask better questions now, I think. And it's something that I intentionally work at. It's not luck of the draw or whatever. Even people that I follow on social media, I follow a lot of relationship kind of gurus and Mel Robbins and all these people that ask good questions. And I'm learning how to ask questions, whether it's in business or my personal life. It's really interesting too, because my kids have noticed that. They're obviously all adults. I guess my youngest one's 21 and the oldest one's like late 30s. And they even notice that I'm not as flippant, as shallow, kind of that. Not that I was shallow before, but I just ask better questions that lead to deeper conversation. And it's wonderful. I just love it. I feel like with my kids, I'm really getting to know them in a less superficial and a deeper level. And I have really quality conversations with business owners and people in the business world. And I just always leave conversations with people feeling like I've really gotten to know them on a deeper level, and that I've been able to share some vulnerabilities too, to encourage them to share.
I bet in the conversations, when you ask better questions, you cause them to understand themselves better as well.
I hope so. I mean, I hope so. Yeah, that's something I'm trying to get less and less vested in the results. Like we have no control, right, over results, and just more intentional about the process and my part in the process.
So, what advice would you give someone who's hesitant or doesn't want to share their own story?
Mhm. Well, first of all, like, listen to yourself. I mean, this is the one thing that I never like paid attention to my intuition. I always second guessed myself. You may not be ready right now to share it. When I was first divorced, and actually when I first started going to these networking meetings, I didn't share my story. I was still kind of working through bitterness, and I did not want to be known as a bitter person. And so I would say, I'm divorced, just like you'd say you're single or you're married or you're whatever, and not go
Yeah.
into the story. And then as I started developing deeper relationships, I do have some friendships with some of the business owners that I've met through this group and through other networking groups. And once there was a tangible like relationship, once we felt akin, I would start sharing it. But you don't have to share it with everybody. It is a part of you, and you shouldn't be ashamed of it, but you don't have to share it with everybody. It's that's I mean that's my opinion. You be intentional about who you share your story and share your life with.
There you go. So, and this is part of building a new kind of network. So, midlife reinvention doesn't just mean that you have to learn new skills, it means reimagining who belongs in your circle, which is what you're talking about, being intentional about what you're sharing. So, what kind of support actually moves you forward? Like, as you're stepping into your role as a podcast producer, author, how did your network shift and who do you become more intentional in sharing with?
Great question. Yeah. Well, I found, first of all, one of my favorite things is a Venn diagram, the Venn diagrams. And I just always love doing that with almost anything. It was a thing from when I was raising the kids. And it's an interesting way to look at it, visually, to look at differences in two things and then where things overlap. You find a lot of things really overlap in life. And I realized that not everybody fits into all of them, or might even not even fit into two of them. And that's okay. Like, there are different people for different things in different areas in our life and different activities that we do. And I think while realizing the importance of connection, I've also kind of become more broad about it, less rigid about connection. I'm okay with having. I have a friend who we actually go out to once a month and go to a stand-up comedy place that's in our town, and that's what we do. We go to stand-up comedy together, and then maybe we'll go grab dinner before, or drinks after, or something, and that's fine. And then there's a section, there's a group of like Bible study women that I met in a Bible study. And we get together. Sometimes we'll meet at one of their pools, or, we'll go shopping or have lunch. And that's what we do. And it's just, I find that my heart gets bigger because my definition of connection has also broadened. And
Yeah.
it's been, but still, it's intentional. And I get to decide. There's such empowerment in knowing that you have agency over your own life and your relationships. And which is also involved in setting boundaries. And I know we can go off on that one too. But it's just wonderful to see, personally, to see how I'm growing. I don't mean to make this sound like that I'm navel gazing and being self-centered, but for so many years as a mom, I was other-centered, make sure the kids are okay, make sure my is okay, make sure everybody else is okay. And I really forgot me.
Yeah. And it's nice to be able to hook into yourself. It's like you're discovering. That's why I love unsealing, because it can be not the ceiling above you, but unsealing a prize possession of you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's both ways, because the unsealing, I always picture that, the glass ceiling, right? That women have always in business have had. And I definitely, it was self-imposed. I'm not going to blame this and put this on anybody else, but I lived under a ceiling of my own creation that I didn't feel like I could go beyond. And as I unsealed, SEALED, who I was and discovered, I mean, things, just even interests, went back to not habits, but hobbies that I used to do that I'd forgotten while I didn't have time when I had kids, all that kind of stuff, and just rediscovered it. I found the ceiling up above opened up too. So it's really been great. I do have to say, I wish this could have happened for me without the divorce. I'm not saying that divorce is the answer. Divorce brings its own set of circumstances and challenges and problems. But for me, this is how this worked out. So I'm grateful that it's worked out this way.
Well, I'm glad too. I could tell that you're glowing.
Oh,
And that's a beautiful thing.
thank you.
So part of what you do is podcasting, and it itself is building a community. And it's not like talking at people, but creating a space within them. So how do you think podcasting helps build community, especially for women stepping into new roles or recovering from life transitions?
Well, for me, it was actually like part of my therapy in the beginning. I was having conversation and even now though, when I record a show, it's usually based on either an issue I've had that's come from my journal or counseling or whatever, or an issue that someone has come to me with and discussion and presented. I'm not a counselor, but I've definitely considered myself a coach because I've really helped people through things. And I know that if one person has that issue or that question or that thought, there's more than one person that has.
Right.
And so podcasting for me has been, as I mentioned, it started out as kind of therapy for me. And I always picture, I actually record my podcasts on video. I don't use video. It's just an audio podcast, but I look at myself as if I'm talking to someone else. So it's very conversational. It's very much, and I think my listeners get that, feel that through the show, that I'm having a conversation, or I hope they do. I'm having that conversation with them or with a good friend over coffee. And I think that opens up the door to having a community. I also talk a lot about having community. I think it's really important. I'm so thankful. Like I have my sister lives in Arizona, halfway across the country. But she and I are very close and we talk a lot on the phone. My adult kids were because they were adults when the divorce happened, have been very supportive of me. I had great counseling. I did not find as much as I'd hoped the support within my church. And that is a little disappointing and understandable. I mean, I understand technically, but that's something that I'm trying to work on in general to fix, because for women of faith to become divorced, I know personally my faith was sorely tested and it was really hard. For me I never pictured I'd be divorced. I took my vows and I considered it till death do I part. And so being a divorced Christian woman kind of cut at my core. So anyway, but we're working on it.
There you go. So what advice would you give someone who wants to start a podcast creative project, or even someone who's dealing with a divorce, but feels intimidated by the whole process. What advice would you give them?
Yeah. Well, podcasting isn't for everyone. The only reason I'm in podcasting was because uh, I had been doing a podcast for a couple of years with another home educator friend of mine. And then she had to stop. We did, I guess, for 2 years. Then she had things going on and she couldn't do it any longer. So I had stopped too. And then my husband asked for a divorce. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to support myself? Pictured being a greeter at Walmart, and God bless them, there's a place for them, but that's not where I wanted to be. And so I have a friend of mine who's a business coach, and she said, well, why don't you do that? Why don't you do podcasts for other people and help them? My tagline right now is let me help you get your message from the mic to the masses. And she said, you can do that for other people. And so that was intimidating to me only because it was like my business, all of a sudden, instead of just a hobby, passion project. But it's what carried me through. So what I would say is when you first get divorced and you have to reimagine, realign, rediscover how you're going to move forward, take deep breaths, which really is an important thing to remember because it gets the blood to your brain, so you can think well. Okay. So you can think clearly and think about what you've done, what interests you, what are your strengths, what do you enjoy doing, and kind of take a personal assessment and see what comes out from there. And talk to people who are aligned, whose lives are what you would like, and see how that, if they have any input to that. You're not asking anyone to make decisions for you, but it's important to get input because especially right after you're divorced, you're probably not thinking clearly. I wasn't.
Yeah. I can only imagine it being a tough time, and trying to get your footing is tough. So what have you learned as a result of everything? Like if you were to have a go-to mindset approach about this, what would you give other people? What kind of advice would you give in addition to what you've already said?
Trust yourself. I mean, trust yourself. When you are first divorced, when I was first divorced, I felt like everything I had, and I don't mean to sound hyperbolic, it's really, I feel this way. I felt like everything I'd built my life on was wrong. No, I didn't stay married. And that was at the crux of it. I mean, 37, we were together 40 years, but we were married 37 years. That's way more than half my life. And that's how you start identifying. So trust yourself and be gentle with yourself, and know that who you are isn't tied to a title. You're more than a wife, you're more than a mother, you're more than a friend or a sister or a Bible study leader or a teacher or whatever. You're more than all that, but it's going to take you a little while to discover who you are and trust yourself and be gentle with it. It's not a fast process, and you can't rush it.
I can imagine that it would be something that you mourn for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So before we go into the rapid fire questions,
Yes.
what I would like to do is take a step back and ask if there's anything on your mind that you feel like the audience, these women and purpose-driven men, need to know about this midlife change, big time change. Like it's all gone and now you're starting all over. What last parting pieces of information would you like to share?
That it's not as scary. Mindset is crucial because you can look at it as being terrified and, oh my goodness, everything has gone amok. I'm a loser. Whatever, figure out how, whatever your negative things. But when you are able to reframe it and to look at it as opportunities for growth, that really changes everything. And when you couple that with gratitude, now I'm not thankful for my divorce, but I'm grateful for what happened to me as a result of it. And I'm very intentional about looking for, and some days I have to be more intentional than others to find things that I'm thankful for. But when you combine looking at it as an opportunity with gratitude, well, there's no stopping you. Just go for it.
I love it. And plus, isn't everything also more fun with gratitude?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
If folks are going through this difficult time, or if they want your help in the podcasting world, how can they get a hold of you?
Okay. Well, I would suggest if it's divorce healing that they're looking at, my book is very gentle. It's very easy to read. There's a lot of resources in it as well. I can leave the link to it, and it also helps people who are. I've gotten feedback from widows, because widows also, okay, they don't have the divorce issue, but as you get older, and then all of a sudden you're alone and suddenly single, as they say, there's a lot of strategies and counsel that can help in that book. And there's also a journal coming out. So I'm really excited about that. If they want to talk to me about podcasting, my website is patfenner.me. And you'll actually find some information on divorce and that as well, because that's kind of becoming my two business prongs, is supporting women in gray divorce as well as my podcast production business.
Fantastic. So we'll have those links in the notes, in the show notes, so that folks can take advantage of that. Yeah. I really want to thank you for being on Unsealing You. Great information. And I'm loving that we're talking about a difficult subject, but in a fun and relevant way. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that. Thank you for bringing your knowledge forward and your light to the world.
Oh, Natalie, thank you. That's actually my closing line on my podcast, is keep shining. The best is yet to come. So thank you.
Pat went from building her world around her family to building a new life around her voice, her values, and her vision. She didn't just recover from a loss. She transformed through it. She showed us that even after decades of living one version of yourself, you can still discover a new one. In this conversation, you learned how she braved her first networking room, even when her self-doubt screamed the loudest. She reclaimed her story, not for pity, but for power. And she rebuilt her network around her with people who reflected who she was becoming, not who she used to be. And that's exactly what season 3 of Unsealing You is about. Learning how to build the community that mirrors your growth, especially when everything familiar has fallen away. Because here, we're not just telling stories, we're sparking transformation. We're helping you rebuild your confidence, your clarity, and your career on your terms. So if you've just been laid off or laid bare by life, don't try to figure it out alone. Join us at the Unsealing Zone, our private community for reinvention, reflection, and rising together. Whether you're starting over, speaking up, or stepping into something new, this is your space to grow. Visit unsealingzone.com, UNCEILING zone.com, and come be a part of what's next. Until the next time, keep rising. Even when the world says you've been let go, you're still being called forward.